Ladies and gentlemen, let me share a simple idea with you today. It's not complicated and it's not flashy, but it works. 1 hour a day, that's it, just one. Now, I know what you're thinking, how can 1 hour possibly change my life? And I'll tell you, not by accident, not by chance, but by design. You see, 1 hour a day, used the right way, is the seed of transformation. It's the quiet discipline that separates the ordinary from the exceptional. Not all at once, but over time. Small hinges swing big doors. 1 hour a day to read, 1 hour a day to learn, to write, to think, to move your body, to plan your life. 1 hour a day to build the you were meant to become. Let's be honest, we all waste time. Hours disappear watching shows, checking phones, putting out fires that wouldn't burn if we just planned better. But what if, starting today, you carved out just one of those hours and claimed it? Not for work, not for errands, for you, because here's the truth. Success doesn't come from big leaps once in a while. It comes from small steps every day, consistent, intentional effort. 1 hour a day doesn't seem like much. Until you multiply it, that's 7 hours a week. That's over 30 hours a month. That's more than 365 hours a year, the equivalent of 940-hour work weeks. 1 hour a day is a seed for long-term transformation. It's a simple truth that most people overlook because they are searching for big changes, dramatic breakthroughs, or overnight success. But real growth doesn't happen all at once. It happens in quiet, consistent effort over time. And that effort begins with a small, deliberate act, choosing to dedicate 1 hour each day to something that truly matters. Think about the power of a seed. A seed doesn't look like much. You can hold it between your fingers. It's small, ordinary, and quiet, but when planted, watered, and nurtured consistently, it turns into something powerful, a tree, a harvest, a forest. That's what 1 hour a day can do for your life. It doesn't look like much at first. It's not flashy. It's not exciting, but it holds incredible potential if you're willing to plant it. The key is intention. It's not just about passing time. We all pass time. We scroll, we sit, we survive the day. But what if you invested time instead? What if that 1 hour was used with purpose to learn something new, to improve a skill, to reflect, to plan, to read, to move your body, or to quiet your mind? That kind of focused hour, repeated day after day, begins to compound. And compounding is one of the most powerful forces in life. If you give 1 hour a day to reading books that grow your mind, you'll read 30 to 50 books a year. That's not an exaggeration, that's math. Most people don't read more than a couple of books a year. Imagine what that kind of input could do for your thinking, your decisions, your ability to lead or create or serve. 1 hour a day sets you apart because most people never carve it out. They wait for the perfect time, the ideal conditions, and those rarely come. But 1 hour, you can find 1 hour. Let's say you invest that hour into building a skill. Maybe you want to become a better writer, learn a language, or develop your communication. 1 hour a day becomes 7 hours a week. That's over 30 hours a month. In 6 months, you've clocked nearly 200 hours. You're not dabbling anymore, you're progressing, you're moving, you're becoming something you weren't before, and that's the point. 1 hour isn't just about managing time, it's about shaping identity. It works the same way in health. 1 hour of movement, 5 or 6 days a week, doesn't turn you into an athlete overnight, but it gets your body stronger, it clears your mind, it raises your energy. After a few weeks, you feel different. After a few months, you are different. The scale might not tell the full story, but your mirror, your habits, and your discipline will. 1 hour a day trains not just the body, but the will. And if you use the hour to plan, to reflect, to think, that's a kind of power most people never tap into. They race through life reacting, but never slowing down to think deeply about where they're going or who they're becoming. 1 hour in silence with a notebook or a question can clarify your direction and bring order to the chaos. That's the seed of leadership. That's how wisdom grows. You don't find it in the noise, you cultivate it in the quiet. 1 hour a day also strengthens your self-respect. Every time you keep that appointment with yourself, every time you show up, you build trust. You prove to yourself that your future matters, that you matter. You begin to live intentionally, not accidentally. Most people drift. They're busy, but not becoming. They're active, but not advancing. 1 hour a day creates direction. It's a line you draw in your day that says, this is sacred, this is mine. You might not see results right away. That's normal. Seeds don't sprout the moment they're planted. But one day, you'll look up and realize that your thinking has changed. Your habits have evolved. Your confidence has grown. You've built momentum. And momentum changes everything. It gets easier to keep going. It becomes harder to stop than it was to start. And it all began with a decision to invest just 1 hour. Small disciplines repeated daily create massive results. It's a principle that doesn't make headlines, but it builds empires both within and without. We live in a world that celebrates sudden breakthroughs, overnight success stories, and big wins. But behind every breakthrough, there's almost always a quiet history of consistent, disciplined action. It's not the one-time effort that changes your life. It's the small choices repeated daily that shape your direction and ultimately your destiny. Discipline isn't about making a single heroic decision once a year. It's about making the right choice when it's easy to make the wrong one. It's choosing to read for 20 minutes when it would be more comfortable to scroll through your phone. It's choosing to go for a walk when the couch is calling your name. It's deciding to think about your goals instead of numbing out with distraction. And the beauty of discipline is that it doesn't require intensity, it requires consistency. That's where the real power lies. When you do something small but important every single day, you begin to build identity. You're not just trying anymore, you're becoming. A person who reads every day becomes a reader. A person who saves money every day becomes financially wise. A person who trains their body daily becomes strong. These disciplines don't just lead to results, they build character. They train your will. They give you confidence that you can follow through. He reasons small disciplines are so powerful is because they seem so insignificant in the moment. No one cheers when you read one page of a book. No one claps when you skip dessert. No one celebrates when you get up 30 minutes earlier to write or stretch or plan your day. But those small acts stack. They accumulate, they create momentum, and momentum makes hard things easier and easy things automatic. Think about a drop of water. A single drop doesn't seem like much, but a steady drop, hitting the same spot over time, can wear down solid rock. It's not force, it's consistency. The same applies to your habits. One disciplined action doesn't make you successful, but repeated over days, weeks, and years, it rewires your brain, reshapes your reality, and redefines what you believe is possible. Small disciplines also protect you from overwhelm. You don't need to change your whole life in a day. That's the lie that keeps people stuck, the belief that transformation must be big, dramatic, or immediate. But if you're trying to move a mountain, you start with one shovel of dirt. The power is in the repetition. You chip away little by little, and one day the landscape is different. Not because of one massive move, but because you showed up when it didn't seem to matter. Every great achievement is the result of tiny, repeated acts. The author who writes a bestseller didn't do it in a weekend. They wrote paragraph after paragraph, some days with inspiration, many days without. The entrepreneur who built a thriving business didn't get lucky. They made calls, solved problems, handled frustration, and stayed consistent when most people would quit. The athlete who stands on the podium didn't train once a week. They practiced the same moves, honed the same fundamentals, and respected the daily work discipline is a form of respect for yourself, for your time, and for your future. When you show up daily for a habit, no matter how small, you're telling yourself, I'm serious about who I'm becoming, and that creates alignment. You begin to live in a way that matches your vision. You begin to trust yourself more. You don't need external motivation. Your actions start to become part of your identity, and the results, when they come, often look like magic, but they're not magic. They're the product of 100 invisible efforts. A person who shows up every day may not see much difference at first, but one day the results become undeniable, the learning compounds, the body changes, the finances grow, the mind becomes clearer. It's not sudden, it's earned, quietly, daily. Through discipline, what most people call discipline is really just decision followed by repetition. You decide to improve, and then you repeat the behavior that moves you forward. Not once, every day, not when you feel like it, especially when you don't, because the days you want to quit are the days that shape your strength, and strength isn't built in the grand gestures, it's built in the ordinary, in the quiet choices no one sees, in the small disciplines repeated daily. Time isn't the issue, priorities are. Every single person has the same 24 hours in a day that never changes. No one gets a bonus hour, and no one is shorted. The real question is not how much time you have, but how you choose to use it. When someone says, I don't have time, what they're often really saying is, it's not important enough to me right now. That might sound harsh, but it's one of the most liberating truths a person can accept. You're not a victim of time, you're the manager of it. It's easy to believe we're busy because life feels full. There are obligations, responsibilities, distractions, and noise pulling at us from every direction. But fullness doesn't equal fulfillment. Being busy doesn't mean we're being productive, and having a packed schedule doesn't mean we're moving closer to the life we want. Sometimes we're just reacting, checking boxes, answering emails, attending meetings, doing things that feel urgent but aren't actually important. The danger is that we confuse motion with progress. The difference between someone who creates meaningful change and someone who stays stuck isn't about who has more time. It's about who has clearer priorities. When you know what truly matters, you begin to say no to things that don't serve your bigger vision. You stop trying to do everything. You start investing in what matters most. That shift in thinking transforms how your day looks. You begin to see every hour as a tool, not just a placeholder. People often assume they need more time to improve their life, but more time isn't the answer. Better use of time is, you can spend an entire day without doing anything that matters if you're not intentional. On the flip side, you can spend just one focused hour and make a real impact on your business, your health, your mindset, your relationships. That's why 1 hour a day, used wisely, can create momentum. It's not about the quantity of time, it's about the quality of your attention and energy. Priorities reveal themselves in action, not in words. It's one thing to say that health is a priority, or that learning is important, or that family matters. It's another thing to schedule time for those things consistently. What makes it into your calendar, what you protect from interruption, what you show up for, that's where your true priorities live. And sometimes that means being honest about what you've been choosing. If entertainment gets more time than self-development, that's a choice. If reacting to messages takes precedence over creating your future, that's a pattern. There's nothing wrong with relaxation, with downtime, with recharging. But when those things take over the time that should be spent on growth, that's not rest, that's avoidance. And the challenge is that avoidance often feels comfortable. It's easier to scroll than to study. It's easier to binge than to build. But comfort today can cost you clarity tomorrow. The people who grow, the ones who break through and create something meaningful, are the ones who have decided that their goals deserve space in their day. Prioritizing doesn't mean being perfect. It means being clear. You might not be able to give 10 hours to your dream, but you can give one. You might not have time to overhaul your life overnight, but you can start with one decision. It's not about waiting for a free schedule. It's about making room for what truly matters even when life is full, even when time feels tight. There will always be more to do. The to-do list never ends. But your future isn't built by checking every box. It's built by checking the right boxes. That's where the power of prioritization comes in. It forces you to ask better questions. What's the one thing that, if done today, would move me forward? What am I doing that looks productive but really just fills time? Where am I spending time out of habit, not out of intention? When you start asking those questions, everything changes. You stop measuring your days by how much you got done and start measuring them by what you did that mattered. Time begins to feel different. You become more focused, more deliberate. You stop trying to fit important things around your schedule, and instead you build your schedule around the important things. Everyone has time for something. The real question is, what are you making time for? The people who achieve meaningful goals don't find extra hours. They find deeper clarity. They look at their calendar and say, if it matters, it gets space. And then they guard that space. They respect it. They use it well because they know the truth time was never the issue. Priorities always were. 365 hours a year equals 9 extra work weeks for self-growth. That number often surprises people because most of us don't realize what we can create when we consistently commit to something small. 1 hour a day might feel like a drop in the bucket, especially when life feels overwhelming or progress seems slow. But when that hour is repeated day after day, it begins to add up in ways that most people never take the time to calculate. It quietly builds like interest in a savings account, and over the course of a year, it becomes a substantial body of work. 9 extra work weeks, that's a full-time schedule for more than 2 months. It's the kind of time most people dream about having to start a business, write a book, learn a new skill, build a body they feel good in, or finally get clarity on their goals. Yet the time is already there, hiding in plain sight, inside every 24-hour day. The difference isn't in the hours we're given, it's in how we choose to gather and direct them. This is why the 1 hour a day habit is so powerful. It doesn't feel like a sacrifice, and it doesn't require major life changes. But when it becomes a daily rhythm, it becomes a force. Most people are waiting for the right time to begin. They think they'll get serious when things slow down, when life gets easier, when they have more freedom. But freedom isn't something you wait for. It's something you build 1 hour at a time. If you spent 365 hours this year learning a new language, you'd be conversational, maybe even fluent, depending on your method. If you spent that time practicing a skill, painting, writing, coding, cooking, anything, you'd be a completely different person in terms of confidence and capability. If you used it for fitness, you wouldn't just look better. You'd feel stronger, sleep better, handle stress better, and move with more energy. If you spent it reflecting, journaling, meditating, or planning, you'd understand yourself better and probably make far better decisions. That's the kind of return on investment most people never tap into because they underestimate the value of small, consistent time blocks. They think transformation comes from intensity, but the truth is, transformation comes from repetition. The daily discipline of 1 hour, applied with intention, can do what bursts of motivation can't. It creates rhythm. It builds identity. It trains you to show up even when you don't feel like it. And that, over time, changes everything. In a typical year, people will spend thousands of hours consuming entertainment, watching shows, checking updates, reacting to content. There's nothing wrong with rest, and certainly nothing wrong with enjoying life. But if you're always consuming and never creating, always reacting and never building, then you're surrendering your best time to things that won't move you forward. 1 hour reclaimed each day becomes a kind of quiet rebellion. It's you taking back control, choosing creation over consumption, growth over distraction. The reality is, you don't need a massive lifestyle overhaul to change direction. You just need a non-negotiable hour. 1 hour where you don't negotiate with excuses, where you don't trade it for something easier. 1 hour where you show up fully present with your focus on something that matters to you. It might be hard at first. You'll feel the pull of old habits, the friction of resistance, the voice that says, one day off won't hurt. But if you stay consistent, something shifts. That hour becomes a foundation. You begin to trust yourself more. You start to see progress. You realize that this 1 hour is more powerful than you thought. 9 work weeks can build a body of work. It can launch a project. It can redefine your path. If someone gave you 9 extra weeks, fully paid and completely free, you'd feel like you had a gift. But the truth is, that gift is already available. You just have to claim it, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time. There's no need to rush, no need to overwhelm yourself with giant goals. You just have to begin and then continue. The rest takes care of itself through time and intention, through discipline and momentum. That's how 365 hours becomes a transformation, not by force, but by focus, not all at once, but by showing up daily for the future you say you want. Discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. This simple phrase holds a powerful truth about the way we live our lives. Discipline, though often uncomfortable and demanding in the moment, is light. It is a small burden we carry for a short time. Regret, on the other hand, is heavy. It drags on our hearts and minds, growing heavier with every missed opportunity, every postponed dream, and every promise to ourselves that we didn't keep. Discipline is the daily act of showing up when it's easier to quit. It's the choice to prioritize your future over fleeting comfort. That 1 hour you spend learning, practicing, or planning may feel like a sacrifice today, but it's a light weight compared to the emotional toll of wondering what might have been if you'd started sooner or tried harder. The weight of regret can settle in your mind, quietly undermining your confidence, breeding doubt, and stealing your peace. We often underestimate the cost of avoiding discipline. It's tempting to think that skipping one workout, putting off one chapter of study, or ignoring 1 day of planning is harmless, but these little slips accumulate. Each time you say not today, you add a little more weight to your regret. Over months and years, those small moments become mountains of missed potential, and regret isn't just a feeling. It can affect your relationships, your self-esteem, and your overall quality of life. Discipline is a kind of freedom. It's freedom from chaos, from self-doubt, from the frustration of not progressing. It creates structure in your day, a rhythm that leads to growth. When you choose discipline, you take control. You make a promise to yourself that your goals are worth the effort, worth the discomfort. You prove that you can be trusted to follow through, and that trust builds character and resilience. It's important to remember that discipline isn't about perfection. Nobody lives a perfectly disciplined life. We all have days when we falter. But discipline is about the overall direction, about leaning into effort more than ease, about returning to the path even when you stumble. That's what makes discipline light. It's a habit, not a punishment. It becomes easier the more you practice it, because you're training your mind and body to expect and accept the small discomforts that lead to growth. Regret, by contrast, is heavy because it traps you in the past. It reminds you of chances lost, words unsaid, steps not taken. It's a weight you carry silently, often alone. People can hide regret, but it doesn't hide well from the self. It colors your thoughts, your energy, your outlook on the future. It's a chain that limits you, preventing you from trying again because you're afraid of failing or failing again. There's a kind of ironic justice in this. The discipline required to avoid regret is so much lighter than the regret itself. Discipline asks for small investments of your time and effort. Regret asks for the endless burden of what if. Choosing discipline is choosing to lighten your load now, so that your future isn't weighed down by sorrow or missed opportunity. The moments when discipline feels hardest are the very moments when regret weighs heaviest. When you're tired, stressed, or overwhelmed, the call to discipline is a whisper you can barely hear over the noise of excuses. But it's exactly then that discipline becomes most important. Showing up in those moments builds your strength and lessens future regret. Each time you choose to persist, you chip away at the weight that might have crushed you later. People who have achieved lasting success, health, or happiness didn't do it by avoiding discomfort. They embraced discipline when it was inconvenient. They carried that light weight day after day, and by doing so, they built lives free from the heavy chains of regret. Their stories often sound like luck or talent, but behind the scenes, it's always discipline. It's a willingness to do what needed to be done when no one was watching, to stay committed even when progress seemed slow or invisible. Understanding the balance between discipline and regret can change how you view effort and discomfort. Instead of avoiding discipline because it's hard, you begin to see it as a light price to pay. Instead of fearing regret because it feels unbearable, you see it as the real consequence of neglecting discipline. This shift in perspective can motivate you to start small habits, keep daily promises to yourself, and build momentum that carries you forward. Discipline is a choice you make many times every day in small moments that add up. It's the refusal to settle for less than what you're capable of. Regret is the consequence of those moments when you don't choose wisely. The difference between them is the difference between carrying a feather or carrying a stone. It's the difference between a future filled with possibility and one weighed down by what could have been. The journey of growth and change is not a sprint. It's a marathon of daily consistency. Success, mastery, and transformation aren't the result of sporadic bursts of effort, but the product of steady, unwavering commitment over time. 1 hour a day, dedicated consistently, can create a ripple effect that moves mountains. The power lies not in grand gestures or occasional deep dives, but in showing up again and again, even when motivation wanes and distractions pull you away. Consistency is the secret ingredient in all great achievements. When you look at someone who has excelled in their field, whether in business, sports, art, or personal development, you'll find a history of disciplined habits, not just moments of brilliance. They didn't stumble into success by chance or luck. They built it brick by brick, day by day, hour by hour. The 1 hour they devoted regularly to their craft, their health, their mindset, or their relationships accumulated into a foundation strong enough to carry them through challenges and setbacks. The reason consistency is so effective is that it allows you to build momentum. Momentum is an invisible force, but it has real power. Once you start moving in the right direction consistently, things begin to flow more naturally. The resistance that felt so heavy at the beginning lessens. You gain confidence because you see progress. Your habits become automatic, freeing mental energy to focus on new challenges and growth. Without consistency, momentum dies, and progress stalls. Consistency also creates trust in yourself. When you show up daily for that 1 hour, you're training your mind to believe that you're reliable, that you can be counted on to keep promises. This trust becomes the foundation for discipline and motivation. It becomes easier to push through doubts and distractions because you know you've built a pattern of follow through. When consistency is present, motivation becomes less of a factor because your actions are no longer entirely dependent on how you feel in the moment. It's important to recognize that consistency doesn't mean perfection. You might miss a day or two, and that's okay. What matters is getting back on track quickly, not letting one slip become a spiral. The goal is progress, not perfection. The small actions repeated over time outweigh occasional bursts of effort followed by inactivity. A consistent 1 hour practice, even if imperfect, beats an occasional all-nighter or marathon session that leaves you burnt out. Consistency also combats the temptation to chase after the next shiny thing. We live in a culture of distraction and instant gratification, where it's easy to jump from one new method, trend, or idea to another. But real growth requires patience and focus. When you commit to showing up consistently for that 1 hour, you resist the urge to switch gears constantly. You develop depth instead of surface level knowledge. You build expertise instead of scattered attempts. Another benefit of consistency is that it builds resilience. When challenges arise, and they always do, your steady habits help you navigate tough times. You don't rely solely on motivation, which fluctuates, but on routine, which sustains you. This resilience carries over into other areas of life, making you better equipped to handle stress, setbacks, and unexpected obstacles. Consistency trains not just skill, but character. It's helpful to think of consistency as an investment account. Every time you invest your hour, you're putting deposits into your future. Sometimes the growth is slow and invisible, like interest accumulating in a bank account. Other times, it's rapid and visible, like a breakthrough moment. But the key is to keep investing, no matter what. The longer you stay consistent, the greater your returns will be. 1 hour a day might seem small, especially when compared to the enormity of your goals or the pace of life around you. But the truth is, small daily actions are the engines that drive extraordinary outcomes. Consistency compounds effort and effect in a way that shortcuts and quick fixes cannot. It turns ordinary people into experts, dreams into realities, and intentions into habits. When you commit to consistency, you align your daily actions with your long-term vision. You create a path that leads steadily forward, no matter what distractions or doubts arise. You build the kind of momentum that makes your goals feel not just possible, but inevitable. And that, ultimately, is the true power of showing up for 1 hour a day, day after day, week after week, year after year.